How do you go from blog to book? I'm sharing tips on how I did it, and you can do it too next. Haiti here, Latinx romance author and OG blogger and freelance writer for over 20 years. Today we're going to talk about how you can go from blog to book. I did it with my first blog, Love Trips. Love Trips is a book that I published a few years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, and it started as a blog. It is a book about my relationships. I am the Latina Carrie Bradshaw. That's how I branded myself. I'm also going to talk more about branding as an author. I have some Instagram content creation videos here you can also check out, and I was able to do this fairly quickly because I had a lot of content as a blogger. So let's get to the tips. Tip 1 of going from blog to book is to actually decide on a theme. If you have a niche blog the way I did, relationships, escapades, dating for single women, for Latinx women, that was my audience, then it's going to be really easy for you to decide what your book is going to be about. If you have a more diversified or multi-subject blog, then you should decide on one theme and what your book is going to be about. Next, you're going to choose your blogs. Reread every blog that you have and don't worry too much about the content, or is it good enough or long enough, because you'll work on that later. First, you just have to know what it is that you have. As a blogger who was blogging for 20 years, I had so many blogs and I had to go through every blog, you know, look at all the categories on WordPress if you use WordPress, and really decide what blogs were going to make the book. So once you know the content that you have, you can kind of figure out how much more work you have to do and if you have to write more. Once you have your blog selected, you can then create a loose outline on what blog is going to go where. This is something that helps when you start writing, right? So you want to create an outline like a real book where it's going to be chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So you look at the blogs that you have and you insert each blog into a chapter. Depending on the type of book that you're writing, which depends on your niche and the blog. It can be an informational book, it can be a fiction book, you can have a book that's creative nonfiction, personal essays like my book Love Trips. So depending on what your niche is and what your central theme is and the content that you actually have, you have to really think about the outline and how you're going to deliver this book in terms of content. So you can have a book that is a fiction book, right? If you have a fiction blog, you could also have a book that's nonfiction if you have a nonfiction blog where it's informational. Or you can blend the two, where maybe you have a personal essay blog and you talk about your life like parenting, and then add on parenting tips, even if it's something you didn't do on your blog. And that really is the next thing that you're going to do. Once you have the central theme, you've selected the blogs, you have your outline, you're going to look at the actual content and you're going to reread your blogs and go and edit and decide what needs to be flushed out. If you have a central theme, you basically know your genre. So for the example of someone who's writing an informational book, even if you started as a personal essay blogger, and again, you're sharing parenting stories, you can flush out all these blogs and share tips if you want to go the nonfiction route with your book. If you want to stay as a personal essayist, right, a blogger that just shares her stories, you can do what I did and you can just create a book that is a chronological, what is the word I'm looking for? that chronologically shares these stories and still has a beginning, middle, and ends, because you do not want your blog to book. You don't want your book to read like a blog, okay? You want your book to read like a book, even though it's coming from your blog. So it's super important to outline, super important to flush things out, and to add stories and chapters if need be. Now that your book is finished from your blog, at least the first draft, you need to get readers. I suggest about 3, 2 if you can't find a third person. Select people that you trust, obviously, that you respect their opinion, and select people, readers that are your audience. So going back to the parenting book example, I would suggest if you're writing a parenting book with tips to find moms that are your audience, or dads if you're writing for dads, to help you kind of give you a perspective from the audience about your book. They'll be able to share some edits as well in terms of grammar or anything that needs to be flushed out. But they'll most importantly give you a real honest opinion of the impact that the book, your book, is making in their life, and if they find the content and the tips in this example useful. If you're writing a fiction book or a personal essay book, then think about your audience. For me, with Love Trips, my audience was single women. It was women of color, Latinx women. So my 2 readers were women of color that happened to be single and were in the age bracket of my audience, right? So I really thought about who I was writing for. And I already had that research done because I went from blog to book. So if you are a blogger that knows about branding, then you're writing for a specific audience, which is the same audience that is going to buy your book. So that's something that I decided to take on. I had those readers and they were able to give me feedback on the stories, right? Did they need to be more fleshed out? Was there things that weren't explained well? Did I need to add more detail because this was a creative nonfiction book? So readers are super important. So you can get the opinion of the audience that's going to buy your book, but also so you can better your book in general. It's really easy as a blogger, as a writer, to just have tunnel vision and think it's great until you put it out there and you don't realize you have missing pieces until someone tells you, hey, you have missing pieces. The last step is to, of course, get a cover. I suggest doing some research. Look at other blogs that have gone from blog to book and look at their covers. Go to Barnes and Nobles in your niche, in your genre, and see what other authors had decided on covers. Just be authentic to yourself. Think of your audience again. What is your audience going to gravitate towards in terms of covers? And of course, you have to love your cover. I would also suggest, last thing, to also present the covers to your readers to see, again, they're your audience, how they gravitate towards it and respond to your cover. You're ready to go from blog to book. You self-published that jammy on Amazon. I'm not gonna get to those details because that's another video that's very extensive. And you get to promoting and marketing your content on Instagram and social media. Again, I have this video here that talks about how to use Instagram Reels to promote your work on Instagram as a self-published author. That's it for me. Subscribe to my channel if you find this content helpful. Like the video, it really helps. And let me know in comments below, if you're going from blog to book, what niche is your blog in and what you're planning to write about. I would love to hear all your feedback and love to hear your progress as a writer, as a fellow Latinx writer, as a fellow romance author and blogger. I love to be able to share these tips and also learn about your experience and really create this awesome writing community. We all need it because writing is very isolating and it doesn't have to be. So thanks again and stay tuned for next week for more writing tips and more right here.